Welcome back to another edition of Shots of the Dome podcast. I'm your host, Sean McDevitt, and today's solo cast is going to be an excerpt from my book, Hack Your Health. The tips that I'm going to relay will help you become a morning person. If you've wanted to wake up earlier in the morning, if you feel like that's going to be more conducive to your schedule, if you've heard a ton of self-help and personal development people talk about the power of getting up early in the morning, these are the tips, the strategies, the hacks that are going to help you do that. As always, when you try these out, please message me, please tag me on Instagram, shout yourself out, because I would love to share it. Because yes, as you'll find out, as you may hear Kobe in the background barking, because he's so excited about becoming a morning person himself, you will be able to turn yourself into a morning person. Yes, indeed, you can create a morning person. So with that, without further ado, please enjoy these hacks from my book, Hack Your Health, on how to become a morning person. When I used to work a traditional 9-to-5 job in corporate America, I chose to exercise in the mornings before work. That meant that I was setting my alarm for around 5:15 most mornings to allow enough time to get to the gym, then eat something and shower change for the workday. Because of this early wake-up hour, I had to have my things ready for the gym ahead of time. I found through trial and error that if I hadn't planned ahead, I couldn't make it out the door in time to make everything work. Thankfully, through this process, I created hacks that, when shared with my clients, would work for those who found it best to exercise before work too. The primary hack here is to pack everything you need for the gym the night before. It may sound simple, but it is very effective. This hack is especially useful for those who are going to shower and change at the gym before heading into the office. Pack not only lifting straps, your lifting belt, and anything else needed for the gym, but also everything you're going to wear afterward while at work. When utilizing this strategy, everything is in one place and again can be subject to a quote grab and go style. No thinking and no threat of decision fatigue early in the morning when we're still trying our best to wake up and liable to forget something. It's much easier to remember what to pack for the next day, the night before, when awake, and not struggling to transition from the dream world to reality. It defends against the quote, where did I put this again, thinking that some of us might find ourselves in otherwise. Taking this one step further is to lay out workout clothes the night before. Again, this engenders a grab and go mentality. Lifting apparel like gym shorts or leggings, shirts or tanks, socks, and hoodie are already laid out or folded in a corner of the room, ready to be worn at a moment's notice. When aggregated, these hacks save time. Instead of wondering what to wear or if you remembered everything you need for work after the gym that morning, you can move in confidence, knowing everything is where it needs to be. When I was learning through experience in this regard, there were many times I'd forget dress shoes for work or find that I didn't have any clean workout shorts that morning. I needed to be at the gym. Also, sidebar, how many of us have worked out in our work shoes because we forgot our gym shoes? I'm raising my hand. I know a few of you are too. If instead I packed and laid everything out the night before, I knew I could make adjustments as needed. Ensure the dress shoes were packed. I'd throw in a quick load of laundry while I caught my favorite TV show after work. The process will eventually become a habit and routine This process will eventually become a habit and routine, and you won't even have to think about doing it. At first, it might be hard, though, only because it's new, because that's one of our favorite sayings, right? It's not hard, it's just new. Many successful people use a similar hack. Former President Barack Obama alternates between gray and blue suits. The founder of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, wears the same gray hoodie and t-shirt every day. Hip-hop legend Dr. Dre wears the same shoes every day. Sidebar, they're Air Force Ones for those wondering. By simplifying what they wear every day, they cut down on decision fatigue. We can take that same approach with setting our workout clothes and accessories out the night before working out. What's more, there's even evidence to suggest that wearing certain clothes has an effect on our emotions. This indicates that we should be wearing clothes that make us happy, but that's challenging to do in the moments after our alarms go off in the morning. Planning what we're going to wear the next day, the night before, can help us plan for success even more. I mentioned earlier that I decided on exercising in the early mornings before work. I'm going to finish this section of the book explaining why I chose this hack when prioritizing my health and fitness, my argument for why it's the most beneficial option if one works in an office every day, and how anyone can become a morning person. I do think I had an advantage over most when exercising before work because I had grown up as a competitive swimmer. I also started my swimming career in Los Angeles, then moved to Austin, Texas to continue swimming in high school, and eventually swam for the University of Georgia. Go Dogs. The commonality among these different time zones was that the morning workouts all started at the same time, 5:30 a.m. Despite living in other parts of the country, I got used to being up at the same time and jumping into a cold pool earlier than most were awake. This comfortability with waking up before the sun gave me a mental advantage as I migrated to the working world, because it seemed easy for me to wake up early enough to work out before work because I was already used to it. Early morning swim practices also enlightened me to another point about why morning workouts are superior to those saved for after work. As I drove to pools across California, Texas, and Georgia every morning, I noticed that nothing else was open that early. It was either the pool, a nearby gym, maybe a gas station, but no other businesses were open that early aside from fast food drive-ins. I had the option to either work out or keep sleeping. There was no other choice to make. Compare this to working out after work. There are what could be considered myriad distractions. Colleagues may invite you to grab a drink or dinner after work, derailing a trip to the gym. There could be a traffic jam on an evening commute that limits time at the gym or makes it impossible compared to 5 or 6 in the morning when there really aren't that many cars on the road. One might be asked to stay late at work, making it possible to exercise after work. The list of different options in the afternoon and evening is endless because everything is open and everyone is awake. Taking decision fatigue into account, I always felt it was easier to choose between two options, sleeping and exercising in the morning versus endless options later in the day. It made choosing to prioritize my health easier while also allowing me to engage with the possibilities that came up after work if I decided to, or the ability to keep working later without cutting into gym time or get stuck in a commute without adding the additional stress of missing a workout. This strategy sounds easy with a baseline of already having the habit and routine of waking up and exercising before the world is awake. Competitive swimming allowed me to create that foundation. Thankfully, however, one can make themselves into a morning person. Studies show that one can become a morning person even if they think it impossible. It involves changing one's chronotype, or the body's natural inclination to sleep at a certain time, which is achieved through taking steps to become a morning person. Sidebar tangent, for real, there are a ton of studies on this. You can make yourself a morning person. Check out my book, Hack Your Health, because you're going to find a ton of citations and research and studies that you can dive further into if you want to prove to yourself that you can become a morning person. But hey, just letting you know, you can do it. Okay, now getting back to the book. When taking these steps over time, one can wake up earlier and thus work out before work. This strategy limits decision fatigue and prioritizes the workout. An added bonus is that if one is training 4 to 5 times per week as part of their fitness program, that means they only really need 2 to 3 morning workouts. So in actuality, that person only needs to become a morning person a few days each week. How to do that and how to change your chronotype and become a morning person is to implement these next tactics. The first is to gradually change your bedtime. This strategy works if you simply want to get more sleep, and I recommend it to clients looking to get more Z's. When someone says go to sleep an hour or two earlier, it can seem daunting, right? If you're only getting like 4 to 5 hours of sleep per night and someone says, hey, you got to get up to 7, you're like, oh my God, how do I add 2 to 3 hours? It can seem really overwhelming. Sounds like a lot of time to eliminate from your life to get to sleep earlier, which can lead to giving up on going to sleep earlier before even getting started. Instead, break it into smaller increments. What I recommend is to go to sleep 15 to 20 minutes earlier for a few days, get used to it, then add another 15 to 20 minutes. Keep doing this, and slowly over time, you'll have added an hour or two to your nightly sleep regimen. It'll also allow you to get up earlier for that morning workout while still maintaining the same amount of sleep per night. Something else to keep in mind through this process is that when you add an hour of sleep every day, you're adding an additional night of sleep per week, plus 1 hour each night over 7 nights, meaning another night of sleep for the week at 7 hours. For real, think about that. If you're at 6 hours of sleep per night, you add an hour per night, that's an hour times 7 days, that's 7 hours. You're getting one more night of sleep for the week. Imagine how much more energy you would get. Imagine how much more impactful that would be for your overall health. So for real, something to think about. I've had clients try this out. Sidebar, I'm off the book at this point, which you know probably. But I have so many clients who try this, and I have a quote in the book. I've been getting a good amount of sleep and taking your advice. I'm just trying to sleep 15 minutes earlier and letting myself get used to that. So definitely try this one out if you are working to add more sleep to each night. Okay, now back to the book. Develop a nighttime routine. This will help relax and allow you to fall asleep comfortably. This hack is especially helpful if you have a habit of nighttime activity, as building a routine can help train the body to prepare for sleep earlier. This strategy involves a lot of, quote, winding down, i.e., spending time relaxing, reading, meditating, journaling, or other activities where one isn't active and increasing their heart rate. A major habit to include is limiting screen time. Blue light emitted from screens like computers, phones, and TVs impacts sleep and can keep us awake. This is scientifically proven. So all that light we look at tricks our body into thinking it's morning and confusing our circadian rhythm. To fight against this, limit screen time at night and close to bedtime. I would also recommend blue light blocking glasses, whether it's placebo or not. I feel like my eyes aren't straining as much. You can also set adjustments on your cell phones to change how the screen appears at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Go into your settings, poke around. You should be able to find it. Okay, so tip number one for becoming a morning person. The first one is to gradually change your bedtime. Second one was to develop a nighttime routine. Third one is to watch what you eat. Studies suggest that when we eat too close to bedtime, our body is more in digestion mode than sleep mode. If you typically eat too close to bedtime, I recommend that you move that meal earlier in your night. This adjustment allows your body to digest while awake and focus on sleeping while in bed. If you have a fitness tracker that tracks your heart rate, you can even see this in real time. Eat too close to bedtime and your heart rate will elevate for the first part of the time that you're asleep. Eat earlier and you'll notice that your heart rate is consistent the majority of the time that you are sleeping. I've seen this. I wear an Oura ring and it actually barked at me once a few months back being like, hey, did you eat too close to bedtime? Your heart rate took a while to get down. So if you have a fitness tracker, you can actually track this as you try to improve your sleeping habits. The next tip, prepare for the next morning. I covered it at length in this section of the book, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it as a fantastic hack for becoming a morning person. Whether you're a self-proclaimed morning person or not, no one wants to do that much thinking in the morning. So having your bag packed for the next day and your food ready to grab and go in the fridge will go a long way to helping you master your mornings. Next tip is to move your alarm clock. This one is kind of a break glass in case of emergency tactic, but it works when needed. Place your alarm clock somewhere that's not next to your bed. That way, you'll have to get up to turn it off, forcing you awake and making it challenging to go back to bed. I once had a client get an alarm clock that ejects different plastic shapes all over the bedroom and won't stop making loud noises until those plastic shapes are put back where they need to be. This one adjustment worked wonders for his routine and allowed him to, yes, indeed, become a morning person. So for real, if all of these tips are, if you're having a challenging time with these tips, grab an alarm clock that ejects little blocks all over your room and forces you to put them back. I guarantee you're going to be awake. For real. If you try that one, please message me. I would love to hear about it. The last tip is to give it time. Rome wasn't built in a day, and you won't become a morning person overnight. So give yourself grace and have patience. From personal experience, I've found that changing up one's routine from non-morning person to morning person takes about a week. You're going to feel the difference that first week and likely be tired, but keep at it. The human body is an amazing machine, and it'll get hip to what you're trying to accomplish so long as you have those other metrics met, aka going to sleep earlier, developing a nighttime routine, all that good stuff. So just to recap, tips for becoming a morning person. And yes, it can be done. First tip is to gradually change your bedtime. Next is to develop a nighttime routine. The next is to watch what you eat. The fourth is to prepare for the next morning. The fifth is to move your alarm clock. And the sixth is to give it time and have patience, something that I don't think is brought up in a fitness journey enough. These were, again, the hacks to becoming a morning person, which is an excerpt from my book, Hack Your Health, hitting Amazon shelves, hitting digital shelves, July 28th. I have more about the book in previous podcasts, and I'll be reading more of these going forward. Thank you again for listening. If you found this helpful, if you are slowly becoming a morning person, please message me, shout yourself out. I will repost you on Instagram because it's something that is proven that can be done. We can turn ourselves into a morning person. Thanks again for listening. This has been yet another episode of Shots to the Dome.